Hello and welcome to another episode of Tell Great Stories, the podcast that looks back on some of Unbound Theatre's past projects and productions. My name is Emily Pugh and I'm going to be talking to some of the cast and the director of the panto production Sword in the Stone, which was performed in 2018.
Hello, I'm Andy Shaw and I played King Arthur.
Hello, I am Filipa Garrido and I played Morgana.
Hello, I'm Chris Barnett and I played the Lady in the Lake.
Hello, my name's Lara Pipistrelle and I was the director and an impromptu Nimue understudy.
Oh, brilliant. I also played Gwaine in this production. So, Lara, as the director, can you give us a brief summary of the plot and tell us what aspects of the project you were most looking forward to tackling?
Yes, so it's set in the world of King Arthur, with the idea that Arthur is getting a bit older and needs to name his successor. So he decides the best way to do this is to have a competition to draw Excalibur from the stone. Arthur has a daughter called Anwen who wants to compete but's told that the girls can't be king, can't be rulers. And we have Morgana who's up to mischief. She wants her son Mordred to be king, so she sets out to steal Merlin's Book of Magic so that she can reverse the spell on the stone that Merlin's cast to kind of steal it back out of it, which she succeeds in doing. She takes over the court and banishes Arthur. Merlin ends up taking Arthur back into his past and showing him that he had simple beginnings. And during these simple beginnings, that the sword in the stone wasn't actually Excalibur, so perhaps all was not lost and the kingdom wasn't quite lost yet. Along the way, they also see Anwen, who has run away and is trying to get back to the court with the knights to try and defeat Morgana. And he realises that he's made a mistake in saying that she shouldn't be ruler. And at this point, we have Merlin, who is getting on a bit, bless him. He hasn't been quite right for the entire show, but he's decided that it's time for him, with his power waning, to move into the eternal sleep in the world beyond our own. We then see Arthur, who takes on Morgana and fights to try and reclaim the throne. But unfortunately, he's wounded. And at this moment is when Anwen comes into the fray with her sword. And Morgana decides to summon the Serpent of Albion. And Anwen rises to the occasion, defeats both the Serpent and Morgana. But unfortunately, it's too late for Arthur, who has been poisoned by Morgana's blade. And it turns out that the sword that Anwen has was the sword in the stone all along, and Arthur had gifted it to her. And she is named Heir, and unfortunately, we see Arthur pass also into the eternal sleep in the world beyond our own. But we finish the end of the play with Anwen becoming queen. So that's the nutshell of the plot. Yeah, it's quite difficult to sum 2 hours of pantomime up into 10 sentences or so, but I gave it my best try. In terms of what aspects of the project that I was most looking forward to, I love Arthurian legends and fantasy and magic, so the whole aesthetic really pleased to me. But the biggest thing I think for me, on a personal level, was that it was a real milestone for me as a director. I had directed several smaller things before, and I directed a lot of short plays and things like that. But this was the longest production that I'd ever had sole direction or control over. So that was a bit of a milestone for me, to be put in charge of such a major production. So that was a big thing. I think what appealed to me about taking the project on itself was that it was a bit of a darker style of panto. We'd gone away from the traditional tales that everyone associates with pantomime. It's still funny, it's still family friendly, it's still very upbeat, and there's still the songs and the dances. But it's something that didn't shy away from some of the darker tones that can accompany family at Christmas time. We see a lot of people that struggle at Christmas, that it can be a difficult time of year for them. And I think, we know that children are affected too, but we don't talk about it. And I think having the death of Arthur be in the pantomime, but handled in a way that's child-friendly and that's upbeat and that doesn't dwell on the grief side of things, was a way of being able to talk about those serious issues and, showing children that it's okay, that, it happens, and that it's something that even heroes have to deal with. So that really appealed to me. And also, of course, I think it was great that we had not only a female director, but 2 female leads, which is unusual for pantomimes. Often the female lead is playing a male character, in the case of Peter Pan and things like that. So having a female cast was very interesting as well. So there were a lot of things that really appealed to me about taking on the project.
Oh, that's fantastic. Thank you. And you did such a good job.
Yeah.
Because there's a lot of us
Yeah.
to wrangle.
You really
Yeah,
did.
it was a very large
indeed.
cast.
Well done. Well done, Lara. It was fab.
And it is a large cast, and a lot of that cast comes from new people as well as old people. And Andy, you were one of those new people. This was your first show with Unbound, and also your first acting role for quite some
Yeah.
time. How did you come to be involved in the production, and how did you find the rehearsal process?
Well, yeah, it had been quite a long time. Going back to my GCSEs, I think was the last time I was on stage in an acting role for my, I think it was my GCSE for drama. And I always meant to come back. I always wanted to come back and do something. In the back of my mind, I was thinking, yeah, it'd be good. I'd love to play a villain one day and to have a bit of a laugh on a stage again. Other than music, 'cause I've done a lot of music on stage, but theatre was just always something that I'll do one day when I'm ready. And I've known Lara for quite some years, probably at the time about 10 or so years, I think. And
Yeah.
we were at a party. I can't remember which party it was. And we were discussing the whole possibly going back into acting thing. And I said I'd seen the ads on Facebook for Sword in the Stone. I'd thought about it, and I said to Lara at this party, "Yeah, I'm too busy. I don't know. Maybe another time. Maybe this isn't the one." And she said to me, "We're still looking for a King Arthur if you fancy it," or something along those lines. And in that moment, I thought, yeah, I could be King Arthur. In fact, I think I am King Arthur. So first thing I did was, first thing I didn't do, I stopped shaving. I decided if I'm going to go for it, Arthur needs a nice big beard, and mine grows really slowly. So I thought, if I've got any chance of looking the part, then I need to get started now. Lara kindly set up a separate audition for me. And obviously I did something right there, I guess.
Yeah, we'd done the first half of we have 2 audition days for the cast, and we'd done the first half, and I knew that we were expecting some more new people to arrive for the second lot of auditions, but Andy couldn't make those auditions. So I actually held 3 other separate audition days for various people that wanted to come on audition, because I was really keen on bringing new people on board to Unbound. And I did secretly think that King Arthur would be a great role for Andy, just because his presence and his speaking voice, it's quite regal, I could really see him. I could really see him in the role.
Thank you very much.
And it was interesting seeing how other people approached the role. It was quite close, we did have other people audition. But in the end, myself and the producer Dario sat down and discussed things. And yes, because I think it's important, when you are friends with a cast member, to try and get that second opinion, because you can be, biased even when you're not intending to be.
Absolutely.
So it was nice to have that kind of backed up and not just be like, oh yeah, that's my mate,
Yeah.
and he's really good, isn't it?
That's great.
So yeah, it was nice. It was nice to kind of just go, Daria, I'm not just being, I'm not being silly. Casting this person that's never worked with Unbound before and hasn't been on stage for a while as such a main role, like it's a risk. Is this an acceptable risk for the project? And we decided that it was.
Absolutely.
And it was it was absolutely the best thing that we could have done. It was great.
Thank you. I was very pleased. I think, and I wouldn't want to take on a part that was given to me just because we're pals. You know, it wouldn't be right. So
yeah.
So I'm glad that
exactly.
you sort of went through the proper channels, I suppose, is the way. But yeah, it kind of did. It put on an element of pressure, nice pressure, because it meant when I was first into having got the part and into that first rehearsal, I did feel like, right, I don't want to let my friend down, for one, and also this company I knew a few people a little bit, but I didn't know people very well, so I kind of wanted to make a really good impression when I first joined in. So
well, you were one of the first off book.
Yeah. Exactly.
And we were all like, oh no.
Yes, it's true.
I literally
so shown up by the new guy.
I really thought that was the way it had to be. I didn't know that it was kind of a bit more relaxed than it was in the end.
No, Andy, that's the way it should be. It's just for later, and you did it
maybe.
properly.
Well, maybe, yeah. Let's go with that. Let's go with I did it properly, and I came in and showed you how to do it.
Yeah.
Your director was very pleased with you.
That's good. And I was pleased that when I very first opened my mouth for the first few lines that I read, and I kind of noticed a few heads turn, and somebody, I think it was Abby, who played Guinevere, afterwards said to me, "Wow, that's really good. You're like really professional kind of sounding, and yeah, you're great." I think she thought I was, this was something I did all the time, maybe, and to have those kind of comments come back to me was a real kind of confidence booster. Having put off this whole idea of getting back on a stage for so many years, just kind of slightly doubting myself, slightly doubting whether I had the time to do it properly, and not wanting to go in it half-heartedly, to then have nice comments like that come from most people. I think said something nice, and Lara giving really good feedback as well throughout the whole process. It really helped, and I almost kind of forgot that Arthur was a character I was playing, and I really did feel like I was actually Arthur in that room. I was no longer Andy Shaw. I was King Arthur, and that really helped me to build the character and to also interact with my fellow cast members as well.
Oh, and Chris, you've been around a while, but I mean, in the kindest of ways.
I think is that a compliment or not? I'm not sure.
No, of course it's a compliment. But this was the first time you played a dame. How do you approach such an iconic part in a pantomime, and what's challenging about it, and what's rewarding?
Right. Well, the challenging part was that Queen's Park over the years have had a very good established dame, and he couldn't do that yet. I'm not sure what the reasons were, and so someone else needed to step up and do it. It's always a role I thought I could do because I've been involved with panto both on stage and off stage for a number of years at various locations, and it's always a role I thought looks like a fun role because you can, if you like, get away with things as the dame. You've got that opportunity to break that third wall because you can interact with the audience quite legitimately within a panto, and that's all part of the fun. And there's also the element of which I enjoy, as everybody knows, that you can maybe push a little bit further because you're aiming things at the adults that hopefully go over the head of the children, and there's that little bit of thing that you get in panto. So to be given the opportunity to do it was wonderful. I mean, I did obviously audition. I don't think anybody else did actually, but no, and it was great. And chance to do it and given the opportunity to do it was wonderful. And yeah, it is an iconic role, and people do expect things of the dame. Spending time with the audience, picking on a gentleman, having fun with them. And it was great fun, and I was really glad I did it because I had done a few other pantos, and the year before I'd been in a sort of an old man character role of Geppetto when we did Pinocchio, and that was lovely because the children sort of came up to you in a nice role afterwards. But the dame, it's more the parents the way they react to you afterwards, which is great fun. And I was pleased to be able to do it again a second time the following year. So it's a role I did thoroughly enjoy, and I'm thankful for Lara and Dario giving me the opportunity.
Oh. And Filipa, as Morgana, you had a lot of big scenes throughout the show. How do you maintain that energy? Because it's such a demanding role during such a long run. And what were the scenes and songs you most looked forward to performing?
Thanks, Ems. So, with Morgana, she was a brilliant character to play. Don't get me wrong, she was like my first baddie. I've never played baddie before. So it was a huge privilege when Lara and Dario gave me the part. And I thought, oh gosh, it's such a big part and she's mean and all of that, so different. But I thought, you know what? Let's just give it a try because it could be a lot of fun. And you know what? It turned out to be amazing. So with the energy levels, it's just like, I think it's just when you go on stage, and I can only speak, like by being a baddie, that the energy is just so high, when you go in, and because the character itself is just so different from myself, that it's just such a challenge that, you go in and it's just like, it's just so big and so wonderful that you just carry on, you just not even realize, and then when you realize, it's like the end of the show and you go like, oh my gosh, how did that happen? So the energy levels, it just comes, with the interaction with the audience, with all of your, all the people that are in the cast, it's just wonderful. When it comes to the favorite scenes, so I was really, really honored that I had a solo. I was just like, oh my gosh, this character's going solo. It's like, what are they thinking? It's like, that is a huge responsibility. And then also that solo was really, really amazing because, I had to interact with Andy, and he was a puppet, and it was just so amazing just to have, a choreography as well as the solo. So it was just like really, really interesting. So that was really amazing to do. And it was a brilliant song, it was just really fantastic. And then, the whole show was just fab. I thought it was just wonderful when she finally got like, no, you go away, you're no good, you go away. So, it was just an amazing show, the energy level just, I was working full time as well. So it's just like, you need even extra, just to carry on. But no, I think it just like the whole cast was just so supportive. Lara was so supportive of everything. So I think everything just kind of like got together and it was just amazing to be part of. So yeah.
To be fair, whenever you're singing in a panto, everyone backstage is lip syncing to it.
No,
or
really?
Whenever you have like an entrance, like people will like walk in and they'll be like, I've just realised we're doing a voice recording and no one can see what I'm doing.
I did not know that.
When you have those powerful moments, everyone's just like, yes, it's great.
That's amazing.
Everyone enjoyed it every time.
Thank you. I did not know that, so that's really nice. Thank you. I'm just like, I'm like blushing now. It's like, it's so nice.
Just add on what you said there, Philip, about I mean, as a dame, I was given a song to sing in a solo. I mean, I'm not a renowned singer. I mean, I can.
Neither am I. Don't worry.
But so, oh no, you do a lot better than I do. But to actually sort of be on stage and have the audience in your hand sing the song is a lovely experience. It really is. And I think there's a point there actually. I mean, I don't know if this gets mentioned. If not, it should do. As something Philip has said. We are an amateur production group, and yet we're putting on a massive amount of performances through December, and all of us are obviously got our day jobs as well, or whatever it is people do for their income. So it's a massive commitment we do take on, and I'm sure that's part of the appreciation of why we do it.
Yeah, it is very exhausting, but it's a kind of a good exhaustion. I think it's like.
Energy
very well
we
spent.
start rehearsals September. It's most of the time there are 18 shows in a run. It's when you have those weekends where you've got like one on the Friday, 2 Saturday, 2 Sunday, 1 Monday, and then if it's Christmas Eve, you have one on the Tuesday. And you get to Christmas Day and you're like, right, just
what day is it? Isn't
what
it?
words? I need a nap.
This last Christmas, I had to go see the family. It's horrible.
It must have been the first Christmas for a while there, Chris.
Just a little bit, yeah.
So audience participation is essential to any pantomime. What are you guys' favourite interactions you've had with the audience, and how do you stop it from getting out of control?
Yeah. I mean, from a direction point of view, I think that the most important thing when it comes to when you have moments where you know the cast are going to be interacting, you know, when they're walking through the centre of the audience, or when they're actually asking questions and having patter back and forth, is to prepare your actors as much as possible. And I think we have a nice tradition in the cast of heckling one another when each other's on stage, and, you know, encouraging that and saying, you know, I want you guys to give them feedback, to be the audience. It allows that practice and that feeling of getting comfortable with the unexpected, because if anyone's going to throw out anything unexpected, it's a bunch of actors on a Sunday afternoon. So, yeah, from the terms of how you stop it getting out of control, there's no way to stop it. There's only a way to prepare your actors to manage it and to be able to process through it in a family-friendly manner is perhaps how that would be my answer to how you prepare.
There was a particular scene where I'm on the front of the stage talking to Morgana, but I'm talking to the audience as if I'm talking to Morgana through some kind of I don't know, portal or something. I don't know. And then Morgana
Up in a balcony.
Yeah, Filipa's actually behind me on the balcony. We've got this conversation going between us, but the audience, as soon as they see the villain behind King Arthur, they want to protect me. They're mostly very protective of me, so they want to tell me. Of course, they want to say, "Oh, she's behind you." I think it's about she's behind you scene. And some nights they went absolutely crazy, didn't they? They were just so loud. And,
They did,
and
yeah.
I think it was Lara's advice just to kind of give them a bit of time, but also just to try and signal to them. So, like, my hands would sort of do a calming motion, so calm down kind of thing. Let them kind of get it out their system so we can carry on with the scene and actually be heard. But there was one night where it was so off-putting that I actually forgot I had another line to say. And I did my
I remember
no,
that.
and I just sort of walked off, did my last line rather than like a bit of a plot line, and just walked off the stage and realised, oh no, I've just left Filipa in the lurch there. She's up on the balcony being screamed at. What do I do? I can't get back on, so I don't know how you handled that, Filipa. I can't remember.
I had quite a lot as Gwaine. So I was playing a girl who was dressed up as a boy so she could be a knight. So I had a blindingly obvious fake beard, and that's the thing, it was supposed to be obvious to everyone but the cast, well, the other like the king and the other knights. And the kids, they just, every time you walked past them or went near them, they were like, she's a girl, like, I know that's a fake beard, because that's something about kids, is when they know something, they want you to know that they know, and they don't like it when you're just like, shh. And normally what I did, I was like, it's a secret, or I'm being hidden, and like, because luckily most of the times that I'm walking down the rake, or I'm sat right next to them at the front, and I'm like, and this is at the beginning, and after a while they're like pretty chill, because they're like, oh, this is a thing. Oh, I get it now. Because very quickly in the script it helps, because it's like, oh, girls can't be knights, and then they're like, oh, that's why.
Yeah.
So it can be done through writing as well.
I think with my character, the bonus is when you play a baddie, it's kind of like children tend to be louder anyway when you're on stage, because they just want, boo, no, she's behind you, this and that. But then it's funny just how a few hand gestures towards them coming from a baddie, how they're just like, whoops, I better not say anything else, and it's quite funny, just I had, I don't know if it was on that one that you were saying, Andy, or if it was another scene, that literally they just kept saying, I think actually it was the one that you were saying, behind you, and I actually had to just kind of almost like, just like did a really big gesture with my hands, like if I was just casting a spell kind of thing, and they went silent. And it was just like, I was like, oh my gosh, what did I just do? They're all silent. Okay, I have to say my lines. But I did not expect to have that sort of reaction. And it was just like, oh, okay, I know what to do next, next time, But so, yeah, I think it just coming back to what you said, just I think I end up just a couple of times that scene that we did together, I did that and it just like went silent. And I think, I don't remember if it was Lara's advice or if it was Lara's and Dario's advice to do that, but it worked. So thank you, because it was fabulous.
Yeah. So Chris and Lara, the slapstick scene is always one of the most popular in panto. Always is. How do you go about performing and how do you go about directing a slapstick? How does the magic happen?
Slapstick is probably the most rehearsed part of any show, because you have to rehearse it so it looks so natural, and when it goes wrong because it's rehearsed to go wrong, and every person involved in that scene knows what's going to happen. I mean, the perfect example of that is this group that are doing now things like the play that goes wrong and things like that. So rehearsed so that everybody on the stage at any time knows what's going to happen when there's slapstick or something's going to go wrong. So I've got to say, Lara actually pretty much left Matt and I to get on with it ourselves, and we just sort of put together some bits and pieces and ran it past Dario and Lara. All changed a few things. But yeah, Matt and I were meeting outside of the Sunday rehearsal just to go over that a couple of hours every week in the run up to the show, just to make sure we both knew exactly what we were going to do. Because it's not just actually doing the slapstick; it's the effect of it, the mess it makes on the stage, and obviously the scenes that follow, and then getting yourself cleaned up so you can then join in the next sort of scene as fast as you can. And which has to be said that a lot of other members of the cast then get involved, because there's obviously the cleaning up afterwards and getting it prepared beforehand. So it's a lot of fun. Yeah, that's right. It was a horrible coloured slime that year, wasn't it? It's a lot of fun to do, but it has to be so rehearsed, and but rehearsed not just to get it right, but rehearsed to make it look so naturally right when it goes wrong.
It's also the heaviest table we have.
It is the heaviest table.
Yeah. So
it's on wheels though, isn't it? Yeah. It's on wheels now.
It's on wheels now.
That was one of the things I insisted on when we started moving that table around. I said, can we put wheels at one and make like a wheelbarrow, because then it'd be so much easier to move. And that's what we did. So but yeah, I don't know if you want to add to that, Lara. So
I mean, slapstick is perhaps one of the tougher things to get right, as Chris rightly said. Like, it's not a case of just, you drop things and it goes wrong. There's a real rhythm to it, and it's very physical. And I think what I found was the most important thing was that, Chris and Matt were able to bounce off of one another and really put things together that suited not only them as actors in terms of their physical capabilities, but them as characters as well. And Matt is actually trained in physical theatre, so he went to university and is trained in physical theatre. And, we had a lot of chats about how he saw it going, and, the rhythm element that he wanted to bring in terms of pacing and things like that. So I felt quite comfortable letting him and Chris, who has, been in so many pantos and knows the slapstick routines inside and out, to go and really work on something that suited them and their capabilities. And we workshopped it a lot. These guys were working on that scene week in, week out for months. And, they'd come back, we'd tweak it, they'd go away, they'd do some more, they'd come back. It was a real kind of process. And I think there's a lot to be said for leaning on the strengths of the cast and, allowing people that creative freedom to put themselves into the production. And as a director, I'm a lot about that. I'm trying to bring in everyone, because I think it makes a better piece. Everyone has put part of themselves into it. But yeah, unfortunately, the boring answer is it's drilling over and over and over and over again. If they had a spare minute, I was, go and rehearse the slapstick. Like, oh, you sat down and go rehearse the slapstick. A bit of a drill sergeant. But yeah, I think the largest part was the cleanup and the shooting, the technical aspects around that. That's probably what took the longest during the technical rehearsal, let alone anything else.
When it's the slapstick, when the dressing room's empty, because what happens is the corridor just before the end becomes completely empty, the corridor backstage where everyone goes, oh God, I need to move. And then it's just like a swarm. And that's when you sort of know, you're sort of wandering the dressing room, you're like, oh, I need to be somewhere else cleaning. And it is like that, because it's like cleaning, people on stage, people backstage, and we always have the dancers, and they tend to just be like, I'm not going near that. That is chaos. There is a bunch of adults running around with cloths. There is slime being and the thing is, as much as we tried to clean up, there was always like a bit of slime somewhere. Always like green, pink. You didn't make it through the production without stepping in it. It wasn't possible, but it was brilliant to sort of, and it's really helpful when everyone knows what they're doing and they're following the process, because that process then works backstage as well.
And I
think also,
I agree.
Add to that slapstick as well is that when you know it's working well is when you get a reaction from the audience on a bit that you've put in to go wrong purposely. And they think it hasn't, you've gone wrong, and that's when you know it's working. So you can just sort of thrive on that and keep going, because if it's the rehearse going wrong looks good to them natural, then it's perfect. If you know what I mean. That makes sense. I don't know.
I know.
But it's a full cast effort.
Absolutely. Oh, totally.
Matt and Chris workshopped it inside and out, and did the bulk of the heavy lifting in terms of pulling something off that's that slick, and then you have an entire cast behind the scenes who has to military precision get things in and out as quickly as possible and everything cleaned up, because you've got about 2 minutes, maybe 3, to get everything clean and tidy and off stage. And I think that's a little bit of the kind of theatre magic that happens that people don't see. That's the chaos backstage. It's ordered chaos, but it's chaos.
Indeed it is.
Well, I hope it is.
And people trying to work quietly as well, instead of shouting at each other, get up here!
Dragging that heavy table across the floor.
As quietly as possible.
It's just a chorus of quiet move. So obviously we talked that there's quite a lot of choreography behind that, but also Filipa and Andy, you were involved in fight sequences at the end of the show. Fight sequence.
Yep.
How did you find learning the combat moves, and what are your favourite memories of the grand finale with Millie the Dragon?
I'll let you go first, Andy, and then I'll tell my share.
You've got 2 to talk about. You finished me off quite quickly on the first one. I loved the fight sequence. I think it really, coming into something relatively new for me, and then having all these different facets of the whole process all in one, and having the fight scene as well was just like a step up. Something that I wasn't expecting. Kind of how involved it was going to be, how much work there was to do in there, and I think much like the slapstick, it's a very, very rehearsed thing. There's a lot of safety you need to take into account of warming up, making sure you're limber up enough, but also making sure that you get the moves right without making it look like you're just poking at each other with a foam sword, but actually make it look like there's some real weight behind it, but trying to do that in a safe way without actually maiming your opponent or accidentally winning when I'm not supposed to. It was a really involved process, and we had we had Matthew Rook come in, who helped to choreograph the whole scene and to take us through how to do it properly. And in the end, I think what we originally had was a lot more than what we ended up doing, because I think I can't remember how many moves it was, like the individual, like swish from that way to that way, or poke from this way to that way. I think we had a couple of dozen different moves, and we had to edit it down just to make it more manageable.
Yeah, I think it started off with something like 56, and we ended up with 24. If I remember rightly.
Right, yeah.
Yeah, we pretty much halved it.
Pretty much.
We had a very enthusiastic fight director. He's a professional choreographer, and he does work on films and various other things. So we'd asked him to come in as a favour to the theatre, and he was brilliant from start to finish. We got halfway through the rehearsals with him, and we did have to sort of approach it from okay, we have actors who are going to be doing this for 18 shows, and we need to bring this back a little bit in terms of like realistic expectations and what people can manage. So yeah, that's why it ended up getting cut down. And actually, I think it really benefited everyone and the scene, because it meant that everything was a lot more polished because there was less to learn, so we could practice more. And it just made it really pacey, and it gave time for acting to happen, for lines to happen, for things to build. So yeah, that was a choice we made about halfway through the fights.
I tell you what, I dare anybody to do a fight scene in a dress. And Andy, I can tell you were very lucky because actually you still had that coat over you anyway. So I kind of give you a little bit on that one.
Yeah.
But I dare anyone to have a very, very pretty dress and do a fight scene and look bad, and look like a baddie. Like, no, I know what I'm doing. And I remember, like, when I got the script, I did not know if it was going to be a fight scene. Let's just put it out there. And then later on, when Lara said, no, it's a fight scene, I was like, okay. And then I find out, Andy was going to play King Arthur. And people might not know, but I'm like 5'3", and Andy is like, I don't know, how tall are you? Like 6'2" or something?
Many more than 5'3", yeah.
Anyway, so he's like a really tall guy. So I really had to, act with John, which is like 6'4". So I'm like feeling like really tiny, telling these people off. It's just not nice. Anyway, so to do a fight scene with someone that is really tall, we really, really had to work it out, big time. So Lara was hugely, immensely, just so helpful, just to kind of like help us go through that. Then we also had our choreographer, and then we had Alistair as well that helped us. So we had quite a few people that kind of helped us, just because also I had a fight scene with Andy, and then I had a fight scene with Hannah, who played Anwen. So, and both of them you still had to have, the energy with it. But of course, one was one thing and then the other one was completely different. So, but I had to maintain that energy with both of them. So I think that's when it came to the fact that we needed to kind of like have a few less moves, just to make it more polished, as Lara said. But it was just brilliant, and everybody just loved it. The kids were just like, "Oh my gosh, what's gonna happen?" And then, unfortunately, like, I felt really bad. Like every single night, just kind of wounded Andy. It was just and it was just on the floor, like, and I was like, "Oh no!" I was just like, it's just not me anyway. And then, then Hannah just wins the fight, and then they drag me out and all that. But and also, going back to what Emily also mentioned, to the bit of when Millie the dragon was there. I love that bit. I absolutely love that bit, because after all that, like one fight scene kind of thing. And then I just kind of have this spell and my arms are up, and then all of a sudden behind me comes this huge dragon head, and it was just magical. I can tell you, the kids were just like glued to their seats, like, "Oh, it's a dragon!" Like they were just like so excited and so mesmerized with what they were seeing, and the whole scene then all together, it just worked so brilliantly. So guys, well done, thank you. It was just so fabulous to be part of it. And Lara, thank you as well. And thank you, Auntie. And it's just fabulous. I truly, honestly tell you, I did not know that I could do something like that in a dress.
Yeah.
So
Bravo.
Yeah.
Bravo.
So you know what? It's a good thing. So if I've done that in a dress, then I think I can do something else as well. So so that's just
Filipa, the difference is though you're used to wearing a dress. This was the first time I was wearing a dress on stage, so for me it's very different.
Yeah, but you didn't have to fight, Chris. You didn't have to fight anybody with a sword.
Oh, I could have done though. I could have done.
I think you could. I think you could. You're right. Lara, write notes for the next time.
Write notes.
That's what he wants to do.
I think one of my favourite parts of that. I think that scene was one of my favourite things I've ever done, actually.
Yeah.
But I think a couple of things that I really enjoyed was, I think it's the very first night, the opening night, and I walked down, brandished my sword, walked down the rake, and ready to meet, and I'm ready for this wonderful music, the fight scene music, to come on, just to build up the tension. And we stood there, we're kind of like facing off slightly, ready for this music which isn't coming. And I'm thinking,
it wasn't music. What are we gonna do?
It felt like an age. Like, do we start? I think we both kind of looked at each other, thought the same thing. I thought, okay, let's just go for it. And then swords came together, and the music started in that moment.
Yeah.
It's like, yes, right, this is it. Carry on with our moves.
I remember us looking at each other, go like, right, okay, we just have to just do it, because otherwise if we stand here just like looking at each other, it's gonna look like, what are they waiting for? Just, what is happening, what is it? And then, as Andy said, and then we both just said, let's just, and then we just went for it, and, we both knew that, we would just get over it, and the music then started, and it was just like, okay.
And also what I really loved as well was the fact that having chopped my arm, with your poisonous sword 18 times, and then I think it was in my Christmas card from you, or birthday card, I can't remember. You put a little plaster. Little plaster on my birthday card.
I did, because I felt so bad every single night. I was just cutting his arm, and then it was just like, I was like, let me just give you a little plaster, maybe that might just help healing the process. I don't know.
Yeah, it certainly helped a little bit, I'm sure.
Death by 18 slow foamy cuts.
Yes. Did you have a bruise in the end or something after 18 times?
Not there, but I did have a bruise on my tail because
of
fallen back. Yeah, I had to fall back 18 times, and a couple of times I didn't do it quite right. I did bruise myself in one of the middle performances, and I thought, okay, the next few falls are going to have to be a bit more controlled. But I think on one of the more controlled ones, I also hit one of the stones that are supposed to be set in the ground, and it moved. So I had to move it back while dying and lying on the floor, so that Millie, when Millie the dragon comes on, they weren't going to run into this stone, which I've knocked into the part of where the dragon's supposed to go. So I don't think anyone noticed.
I'm just kind of seeing you go like, I'm just laying down and moving this stone very slowly. No one knows.
Subtly moving it back towards my head where it should be.
That's it. It's in the right place now. Okay, carry on.
So to finish, if you could play any character in Panto, who would it be? And also, is there a pantomime story Unbound hasn't done yet that you'd like to be involved in? Please don't all go at once.
Do we have an order?
Well, I have to say, if ever did something like Cinderella, I'd love to be a Buttons, because that's one of the iconic characters of Panto, isn't it? Buttons, and again, it's just a fun role that you can have so much fun with. Having said that, if they're doing Cinderella, there's also the Ugly Sisters, so I'd be torn. I really would be, but so there you go. There's a thought.
I think I would just like to play any character. I just love being in Panto. That's the magic of it. Just like all of the cast is just wonderful to work with. So any part would have been fab. Good or bad. She's a baddie or she's a goodie. I don't mind. It's just literally, it's just being part of that magic. It's literally just being part of that magic. That is what I'm. What I love. That's just what it is. So yeah. So yeah, just give me a part. I'll be happy. It's all good. Hint.
Hint, yeah. Anything. For me, I want to play Hook.
Ah.
I want to be Hook.
That's hint for sure.
Hint. I forgot my own hook, so I could bring that to the rehearsal. Hook would be great. But to be honest, any baddie, I always, when I was sort of eyeing up the stage for those 20 years between me not doing anything and wanting to get back and do something, perhaps on a panto, I was thinking I'd love to go in and be a baddie. I think I'd make a good baddie. Yeah. I've got the eyebrow. And I've got the hook, but I just love to have something where I'm booed and I can just like really interact with the audience and threaten to turn them into toads or threaten to garrot them with my hook or whichever character is off with their heads, kind of thing. I don't know, just something that I can really play up and just put them in their place.
I don't think I have the self-esteem to be booed every night.
It's hard.
But I really like the fact that I've always played really cool, strong female characters, and I just like that to continue because I've been really lucky with that. I've had fantastic characters, and I just want that to continue in whatever form it is. Because it's great.
Picking up on both of what you just said. I would love to play a baddie as well. I've never played a baddie in a panto. I did enjoy directing, and I would direct again, definitely. But if I was going to play someone, a Morgana or a Maleficent, I think that we don't see enough big bad female characters. We see more of them now, sort of post-Frozen, should we say. We see more. But yeah, I think they're fun to play, and but in terms of what kind of pantos I'd like to see that Unbound hasn't done yet, I think the thing that Unbound does really well, and something that I really value in the company, is that we push people and we help people to develop and to become more than what they were when they first joined us, whether that's helping them to direct their first pantomime and then giving them the reins on a whole new show, or picking someone that hasn't been in theatre since GCSEs and giving them a main role. We're not afraid to take those risks that maybe other theatre companies wouldn't. Because I think there's you take a risk when you don't know how well someone's going to handle something. It may all come tumbling down. And I think that what I loved so much about The Sword and the Stone was that we took a risk on many levels, from casting to directing to the show itself, which was an original piece, which wasn't traditionally a pantomime. And I think breaking away from some of those traditional tales sometimes is a really good thing. Pantos bring a lot of joy, and they're expected in many ways. There are the tropes, and you expect that they're used behind you, and there's a formula to them. But I think retelling the same ones over and over again each year is not doing as much service as could be done with new things coming in. So for me, I think something new, again, another different thing, that would be interesting.
Yeah.
Dario.
I just want to say something as well on those lines as well. I just want to say a huge thank you to Lara and Dario as well, because it was a huge, it was a completely different pantomime to put on, and it was a huge challenge, and I can just say it from my perspective because it was my first baddie. I know I have been baddie twice for Unbound, but it was my first baddie, so I'm not saying I'm typecast or anything, but it was just amazing. And, to take a risk on me when, I was new to the company and I've never played a baddie, so huge thank you. So I just wanted to say thank you to both of you to kind of, take a chance on me, and hopefully I did it well. I don't know. I'm just, I had quite a few people enjoying the show, so I just really hope that, it was what you expected to be, Lara. So, we were all very proud to be with you, and be part of it with you. So thank you.
Yeah.
I just wanted to say thank you now.
Yeah, absolutely. I think as well, just kind of echo all those points really, but to do something original. What I really loved about this particular one was how it did tackle the issue of sexism and the whole. I'd like to think that Gawain, having dressed up as the male with the beard, had got the same pay as all the other knights, and hopefully continued to do so after the show's conclusion. Like going, oh well, you actually are doing the same job, so we should continue giving. So obviously Anwin's in charge now, so obviously it would have been a thing. But I like to think that even if Arthur had survived, that having learned his lesson, that yes, Gawain should continue to get the same pay. And I think it's important that we're putting this message into some very young minds, and we want them to go away entertained, but also to have learned a value or something. I think that to carry on doing original scripts that kind of take these kind of issues on board and to help promote things like that, I think is hugely important and massive benefit, and something that perhaps is a bit of a niche sitting with Unbound.
Well,
long may it continue.
I also feel the same, because it was mentioned earlier about Arthur dying and not shying away from that. As a person who lost my dad as a teenager, it was really nice to see it being done so delicately. And don't get me wrong, there were times where I was like, this is a little bit hard. Like when he comes back and says goodbye, like I'm pretty sure I didn't do it for most rehearsals because it was really hard for me. I did as well, yeah. But to see it being done, I'm like, oh, because when I was younger, you sort of look around and you're like, I feel like the only one. I feel like the only person in the world like this. Because it wasn't being portrayed in anything I was consuming. And if I was, it was in young adult books where the teenager was completely fine when their parents died and there's no repercussions. And whereas, watching the real pain, but also the positivity that continues in life after the loss of someone very special is a really beautiful thing. And to have it written so nicely, handled so delicately, and be so beautiful was a wonderful thing. And it's one of those things where you're like, this is a little bit tricky, but I think that's good.
Yeah,
I have to say, the only thing with having a death scene in the pantomime, the curtain closed, I then had to walk on stage and do the sing along with everybody, get them all happy again.
Everyone's crying.
Fun,
A lot of responsibility for Chris there. I mean, I think
so. First time I saw that rehearsal,
the best comment I heard from the rehearsal about that, not from rehearsal, from the audience about Arthur's death, was there's a moment on every night where it hits the audience that yes, we have actually done this. Arthur is not coming back. That Merlin is not going to resurrect him, and it's a deathly hush. It really is. The audience stops. Everyone goes quiet. The kids stop rustling their sweet packets, and it's a moment where everyone sort of takes a collective breath. And during this moment, there was one dad that had obviously had a couple of glasses of wine, and he just went, "Oh, it's not very Christmassy, is it?" And the laughter that rippled out from that. So the time Chris came back on for the sing-along, they were all in good spirits again. It was wonderful. It's just the resilience of the people who were in the audience to bounce back, guided by Chris, guided by the sing-along and the happy at the end, was fascinating to see as a director from behind the scenes. But yeah, I think we affected the audience and we managed to speak to them in a new way, which I think is important for theatre to do.
Yeah.
Oh, well, that's lovely. This is lovely. But that does bring us to the end of this episode, and what a nice way to end it. So I just want to say thank you for all your thoughts and memories, and thank you to everyone who's listening in. For more episodes of Tell Great Stories and lots of other great audio and video content, head over to unboundtheatre.co.uk or look up Unbound Theatre on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram or SoundCloud.